heck is it that draws palliative care people to ethics committees?
Oh, well, I think it's our ability to not see black and white, to see that there's
I love that answer.
a spectrum. Yeah. So, and it's to be comfortable with that spectrum too.
Oh,
See it
man.
and be comfortable with it. Um,
100% John, all the way.
that's it. That's it. But,
Well, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
it's my pleasure. And, I'm a little embarrassed about doing it, but what I found in looking at those questions, I'm not one who takes time to do enough introspection.
Mm.
And so that was sort of fun to take a few minutes yesterday and reflect on some of these things. And
Oh, that's great.
so it was rewarding from that standpoint.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Well, and, we crossed paths in the early 2000 teens in mostly medical residency at Iowa, but I never got a chance to hear most of your story into palliative care. So I'm actually pretty excited about this too. And that's a natural segue kind of into even the first question is, can you give us even me, a little bit of a sense of how the heck did you end up in palliative care?
So I'm family practice trained, and during my residency, I found that the things that I enjoyed the most were birth and death related things.
Mm.
And I do often quiz the medical students or residents when we do have a few personal minutes to ask them if they can see what the connection is between those two items in medicine.
Mm.
So, but not to drag it out to the end. I mean, what I remind them is those are two processes that would happen naturally, even if a physician wasn't there or a medical person. If nobody's there, birth and death will still happen naturally.
Mm.
But having somebody there with experience and knowledge about what's going on makes the process easier and more comfortable for all those involved. So, that's those. I feel like that's what the relation has been for me, or why I've sort of enjoyed those things. It was just,
Mm.
In an intervention in something that would be happening anyway.
How long did you practice before you moved into palliative care, or was it straight away?
No. I was in private practice for 7 years after finishing my residency in Michigan, came to the VA in 2000. And so I did primary care here for 10 years before
Wow.
transitioning into palliative care. And so it was a 50-50 for about 5 years here. And then 7 years ago, started doing it full time here.
Okay. All right. So you noticed that right from the beginning that there was probably something that was going to find you into palliative care, and it took a little while, but you got there.
Yeah. I had a nice rotation with a person in our department who was running the local hospital, or excuse me, the local hospice. And so as soon as I finished my residency and I stayed in practice in that area, I filled in for her when she took vacation. And, for me, it was, I really enjoyed being collegial with the nurses who were clearly the backbone of the operation. And what they needed was somebody who could make things happen and okay what they knew they needed to do. So I enjoyed that part of being part of that team.
I can't tell you how many times I too have confused hospice and hospital. If I had a dollar
yes.
for every time in the chart, I would write one for the other.
Yeah. Happened earlier today.
Yeah, right. All right. Oh, wonderful. And are you strictly full-time palliative now?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think so. Even when I met you, you had already moved over.
Yes, I think at that point,
All
you
right.
weren't here that long ago.
I guess that's true. 5, 6 years ago.
Right, right. So it was about 7 years ago that I switched to full-time
Okay.
palliative care.
Okay. Well, wonderful. All right. Um, so one of the things that I'm hoping that this series can offer people is a little bit of advice, especially to those of us who are new to the career of palliative care or just new to medicine. Do you have a particular piece of advice that you'd offer to those of us who are watching who are new, and sort of a two-parter advice that you'd share with the younger version of yourself?
Well, one of the most important things that I can think of is enjoy what you're doing. And I hope that came through when we crossed paths in the past. I enjoy my interactions with patients and family, and I think that makes a day go well. If you see that you're supporting somebody getting through some tough times, and I think that's true even outside of palliative care. I mean, that's still what I enjoyed about medicine when I was doing primary care. It was really the interactions with people that are real and going through real day-to-day issues. They might not always be crises, but being a part of that. It is important to take that time away from work and keep some balance. But I think we do spend a good amount of time, and it's nice to not have it when you're at work to make it feel like you're doing factory work, or that it's not people are not a nut and a bolt that you're putting together, but there's nuances for every patient you're dealing with.
Mm. Was there ever a time when you didn't enjoy coming to work?
I do remember a time
Yeah.
where I think I was particularly had some rough edges and was a little bitter. I remember working with a resident and thinking that I was putting her through I was letting her hear the thoughts that were bubbling up underneath. So there were those times. There was another thought on that. Were there times that I do remember when I first started in palliative care, though, going to an EPIC teaching course, and they were questioning the people there about their job satisfaction. And in a room there were about 30 people there, I was one of the 2 highest people scoring high on job satisfaction, because I'd always felt like maybe I worked hard or put in some extra time, but it was always by my choice, or I felt like this was the right thing to do. So I do know that I scored high in the job satisfaction. And when I do remember now, when I had that rough time, it was because I felt like things were being taken away, that I was no longer making the decision. I was being told what I had to do.
Oh,
That was a little bit hard. So always been envious of the people who were in solo practice, and the small town country doc. That's where I had envisioned myself going at some point in time, but I found this niche instead.
Do you have any tips or tricks of how you, I don't know, how you keep the enjoyment? Is there some practice that you do before you go home to to find balance. I don't know how.
Well, I sort of heard that as two different questions. Any tips or tricks?
It was.
Yeah. Again, focusing on that the patient has needs and we're there to satisfy them, and focusing on the good experiences and letting the rough ones pass off. I mean, that's the trick for going in each day into into the patient rooms up on the floors in the hospital, what have you. But for that separation of how to leave that behind, I took up meditation when I was an undergraduate, so well before medical school, and have kept that up through my life. So I do try and meditate at the end of the day. That sort of refreshes the mind and soul a little bit and helps to leave things behind. I also think, exercise is physically important to me, and so I do. Pre-COVID, tried to on a regular basis exercise, and trying to get back into that now when you're out, things are starting to open up. And but I do think that outside of, for me, it's exercise and meditation are the things that clear my mind. But I also find it important to enjoy the life in general. And, both my wife and I really enjoy music, and we have a wealth of opportunity around here for concert venues and going to music of all different genres. So that's always been important to us and enjoyable to us. So.
In particular, during COVID, I really struggled a lot with separating work from home life. I think that's always been a struggle of mine, and I've found it to be helpful to physically tell myself out loud as I'm driving home, you're leaving work, you need to leave this behind. How or what kind of a person do you want to be for your wife, for your son? Not to take that home and be grumpy for a half an hour or an hour as I continue to digest those things.
Yeah. But having that separation is a good thing. I mean, for me, I'm lucky I get to bicycle home, so a little exercise and fresh air, helping to clear my head on the way home.
I forgot about that. That reminds me that I remember I always saw you with a bicycle going through the VA hospital.
Well, plus I bicycled by the house you were living in, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Go right up your street.
All right. So you've been in palliative care now for quite some time. Do you have a sense of now what kind of differentiates someone who's a pretty good or a fairly average palliative care provider from somebody who really is an aspirational palliative care provider?
Well, I had to reflect on what aspirational might mean. And I've only claimed or felt that I'm a good or average provider, and comfortable with that. I do feel like I work with an aspirational provider, who hopefully some of you have also already heard Dr. Ann Broderick speak, and she has vision of where things are going. I mean, aspirational, where things are going within our practice, and it's grown our practice, and the bigger community as well is something she's been very actively involved in. But I do hope that I've provided something for others to aspire towards, and being a compassionate, dedicated provider who provides good care to their patients, I'm hoping others can aspire to that, or, you know, see that as a role model. But
Yeah.
I was, so I see that as the big picture for the field, and the small picture for those people around us.
Mm. I got to give you a lot of credit, Joe, and I know that you had a fair amount of impact on me. So one thing that the people that know me really well know that I journal, but I don't journal myself. I journal other people.
Oh,
I collect quotes.
oh, good.
Been collecting wisdom. I started it towards the end of high school. And so I have this pretty thick book now of things that people have shared with me. And I have a handful of things that you shared with me when I was a resident that
Goodness,
are
that's
in there.
exciting.
So it's stayed with me. You've had an impact.
Well, that's rewarding to know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I'm curious then, did you have a particular mentor as you moved through palliative care?
And I can't say that that there was one. I feel like I took a lot of things from a lot of different people. I mean, the program director for my residency program, John Brewer, was the small town country doc who, you know, had done what I had always envisioned myself doing. He worked in the back hills of West Virginia, and you know, and watched families grow up, and then did the residency program. So you know, that kind of dedication. But you know, also had the opportunity in my residency to work with very intelligent folks who are big in the ethical field. Howard Brody was on the faculty where I did my residency, and you know, it was exciting to start reading his works as I'm on the ethics committee here, and so every once in a while I stumble on articles that he's written. So you know, it was very exciting. I mean, then that provider who was doing the hospice locally, the community hospice near our hospital, was nice to see that community involvement, and so many people that I interact with. Since I'm located here at the Iowa City VA, I interact with a lot of hospice providers out in rural parts of the state, and you know, to see their dedication to their community is, you know, I feel dedicated to the veterans and the VA system here. It's nice to see those people dedicated to their home communities. So I feel like I've seen something from lots of people and tried to absorb little things, but there wasn't one person I can think of that I might have focused on.
Sure. It's like a really good palliative care fellowship. You get to sample little bits from a variety of different people and inform your own style. So you were on the ethics committee. I serve on our Milwaukee Metro Ethics Committee. Most of the palliative care folks I know are on ethics committee.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck is it that draws palliative care people to ethics committees?
Oh, well, I think it's our ability to not see black and white, to see that there's
I love that answer.
a spectrum. Yeah. So and it's to be comfortable with that spectrum too.
Oh
See it
man,
and be comfortable with it.
that is so, yeah, that is exactly what I was thinking too. I mean, ethics is the definition of gray. You could debate both sides until the cows come home, and palliative care seems to be very similar.
Right. Yeah. And it's becoming comfortable with where it ends up, and where the process is leading.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we end, we want to conclude each one of these interviews with a poem. I'm curious to hear what you picked and why.
Okay. Well, I don't spend a lot of time reading poetry, although I have a daughter who is a poet and it has exposed me to a lot. I don't have any to go to directly, but I do have a passion for enjoying music. And to me, most songs are poetry, with music to support them. And so I went to one of the musicians probably one of the last musicians that my wife and I were able to go see before the COVID shutdown, who we've heard several times through the years. It's a folk. So folk music is something we truly enjoy. So this is a poem about, or it's a song, a poem, but it ties having that connection to the past as well as the future, the linkage of the two. So the background for the story is that, an old-fashioned pump required some water in it to start the pump working. So this is a song from John McCutcheon, who's a well-known folk musician, called "Water from Another Time." So, okay, I better loosen up my lips.
Yeah, love it. And I love the creative freedom. That's perfect.
Oh, good.
I love it. I love it.
So, new mown hay on a July morn, grandkids running through the knee-high corn, sunburned nose and scabbed up knee from the rope at the white oak tree. Just another summer's day on Grandpa's farm with Grandma's bucket hanging off my arm. The old pump's rusty, but it works fine, primed with water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Just leave a little extra for the next in line. They're gonna need a little water from another time. Tattered quilt on the goose down bed. Every stitch tells a story, my grandma said. Her mama's nightgown, her grandpa's pants, and the dress she wore to her high school dance. Now wrapped at night in those patchwork scenes, I waltz with grandma in my dreams. My arms, my heart, my life entwined with water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Just leave a little extra for the next in line. They're gonna need a little water from another time. Newborn cry in the morning air. The past and the future are wedded there. In this wellspring of my sons and daughters, the bone and blood of living water. And though Grandpa's hands have gone to dust, like Grandma's pump reduced to rust, their stories quench my soul and mind, like water from another time.
I love how you brought it full circle. Linkage, past and the future, birth and death.
Yes, right.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you for this chance to reflect with you. And
yeah, thank you, John. I really appreciate it too.
Enjoy your chalk talks. I don't have the chance to get on Friday morning, but I have enjoyed that they are now on Zoom and have gone back and looked at several.
Oh, good. I'm glad. All right, John.
Thank you for doing this and keep up the good work up there.
You're welcome. All right, sir. Have a wonderful rest of the night.
Thank you. You too. Sorry about the technical problems at the beginning.
Oh man, it wouldn't be Zoom without technical problems.
Right. And good luck to you and take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.